Prepare to experience the strongest radio allowable by law. Secrets will be revealed. Myths dispelled. From the studio gym where excuses never apply, it's Superhuman Radio with your host, Carl Lenore.
This is Science for Humans with Dr. Jeff Galini.
Can you believe that, Dr. Jeff? These scientists went back to their original study and they looked at it again and came up with different results.
You know, that's pretty amazing, first of all, that they would be honest enough to go back and do that.
Exactly. I mean, I applaud them. I'm not, there's people out there going, oh, what happened? Forget that. How many times have you seen scientists go back and review their original work and go, maybe we missed something?
Well, exactly. And, how you did things 10, 15 years ago, 5 years ago, I mean, technology, things are changing. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that later. But with you, we're going to be talking about the largest, most sophisticated vitamin in the world. What is it, Dr. Jeff?
That is vitamin B12, and it's kind of the last B vitamin in the series that we've been doing. And this is probably the one that most people have heard about or are more aware of.
So I put a picture of it up on the Facebook posting today. It looks like a spider's nest. It's amazing. It's got so many different branches and molecules, and it's just amazing. It really is. It's the largest, most sophisticated vitamin in the world. That's amazing to me.
It is, and in a nutshell, like all the other 8 Bs, it is water soluble, and it plays a key role in the normal functioning of brain and nervous system and the formation of blood. I mean, this is really an important one. It's also involved in the metabolism of every cell of the human body. Every cell, especially affecting DNA synthesis, regulating fatty acid metabolism and amino acid metabolism. I mean, how about that for adding some initials after its name, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very important vitamin. Now, it's one of the vitamins that we not only get from our diet, but is also made from bacteria in the gut. You've talked about certain B vitamins that are manufactured in the body. B12 is another one, right?
Correct. Yep. I mean, that's how important it is. When your body has to manufacture things, this is pretty important. And when you look in nature, it probably is one of the most abundant vitamins that is readily available through our food sources.
And what that tells you is it influenced our evolutionary development. If it's found in almost every food source that we consume. Now, adequate amounts we'll talk about later, and trace amounts, obviously. But if it's found everywhere, and we've even gone as far as to start to manufacture it ourselves, it tells us that it has been a cornerstone of our development. Would you agree with that?
I would, and I found it really interesting, as we research, these sources, thinking, wow, I mean, this stuff is available in nature, and these are all our food sources. Nothing is a new food source. It's a source that's been around for, hundreds of
millennia,
thousands of years.
Right.
But that tells you, like I said, how important it is.
What about deficiency? So a lot of the B vitamins have very frank side effects or effects when you're deficient in them. Is B12 one of those?
It is, and a lot of the B vitamins are kind of overlapping. A lot of symptoms that people have, could be a B12, could be a B1. But the ones that are really important for B12, some of them are pretty serious. But one of the ones that's common, and again, we talked about this, I hear this all the time from people, but it's just that strange sensation, a numbling, a numbness or tingling that you get in your hands and legs or feet. A lot of people go, oh, my leg's asleep. But, I hear people all the time, they just wake up and they've got this tingling. Well, that's a B12 deficiency. You wouldn't think that a vitamin would cause that, but absolutely, it is.
And I want to make some others, because right now people are saying, yeah, but I take a lot of B12 and I still have some of those symptoms. We're going to talk about this, because just because you take B12 doesn't mean that it's being metabolized and used by the body. There are several disorders. Quite frankly, well over 30% of the population today, and possibly more, is not metabolizing B12 properly when they eat it in a diet. But okay, so
absolutely. And when we talk about the causes of the deficiency, it's pretty interesting. But another thing that a lot of folks have some difficulty walking. Their balance is off. And I've never heard a doctor go, "Oh, you know what? You might have a B12 deficiency." It's always something else. This is probably more common, when you're diagnosed with anemia, they normally will give you a B12 for that.
Right.
Swollen, inflamed tongue, I haven't really heard a lot of that or seen that, but that is one. Jaundice.
Really?
Yes. People who have zero B12 in their diet, jaundice could also be a cause of that deficiency. So it's not always, a liver damage situation.
Right.
Difficulties thinking. Have you ever just been in the afternoon where, somebody goes, "Hey, do you remember that songwriter? What was his name?" And you just can't think. I mean, that whole cognitive memory loss, that's a B12 deficiency. And then things like, paranoia, hallucinations and things. That also could be caused by B12. But then, the ones that, again, are a little more common, weakness and fatigue. B12 has been known to help out with, being weak or being fatigued.
Right.
A lot of doctors will prescribe, B12 shots, if they really think you need to get a lot in your system right away.
Right.
But those are kind of the basic symptoms, which, things like tingling and, being fatigued. What do most people do when they're fatigued, Carl?
Caffeine, baby, caffeine.
I need more caffeine. That's the reason. Well, sure, caffeine fixes the immediate need, but you got to look at what is actually causing that. I like feeling good all day long, not just for an hour and a half,
Right. Or for 5 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
There's something else that B12 plays a big role in that's not as apparent, and that is DNA synthesis. And
yes.
When we talk about genetic mutations and we talk about ribonucleic acid and diribonucleic, this is a very important vitamin from a mutation standpoint as well. Mothers who give birth to children while they're B12 deficient, they end up with babies that have deformities. So it also plays roles in things that you may not be able to see on the surface or feel, but are actually going on below the surface.
Well, and that's a good point you brought up about mothers. A lot of times, some of these prenatals that, a doctor will just say, go get a prenatal. And, not all prenatals are made the same. Some of them are pretty bad. I mean, I have seen mothers shopping, Carl, at the dollar store for a prenatal vitamin.
Yeah, right? I know,
but,
right?
Yeah, your baby, if you don't get enough B12 in your diet while you're pregnant, your baby could be deficient. And like you said, that does affect the whole DNA synthesis. And a lot of times, they want you to get on folic acid because folic acid has been proven to decrease birth defects. But, when you start messing with your DNA, important.
Now, let's talk about food sources of B12, because then I want to talk about, even though you're getting enough B12, it's good to follow the food sources to talk about that, the deficiency issue.
Yeah, because, again, we're going to talk more, but, the food sources, the first one is your shellfish with things like clams, mussels containing a lot, oysters. Matter of fact, oysters contain 408% just in 3 ounces of the percent daily value. Now, remember, the percent DV is for a 2,000 calorie diet, which really means absolutely nothing other than a number.
Right.
Sorry if you invented that. Beef liver, most all livers, foie gras, chicken livers are high. More of the fatty fishes like mackerel, salmon, herring, but even, tuna, trout contain good amount. Your crustaceans, your crab, shrimp. So I was happy to see that because a lot of people think that, those type of things don't have much nutrition value, but
Right.
hey, they're high in B12. And then my favorite, red meat.
Yes. Yes.
We had good beef last night.
Bloody meat. There's B12 in blood. That's why.
That's it, absolutely. And then your dairy, your milks. So anything made
Yogurt,
from milk.
cheese.
Yep. And then eggs, egg yolks. And it doesn't matter where the egg, whether it's chicken, turkey, quail, they're all high in B12. So for the most part, if you're not a vegan or a vegetarian, most people get a pretty good amount of B12 from their food sources. But what you have to be careful, if you are vegan or vegetarian, and you don't eat any of these type of sources, you have to supplement, because if you noticed, there weren't nuts and grains on the list.
Right.
Now, there probably are some minute amounts, but not enough, So again, you have to be careful, with your diets, with your food choices, that you have to look at what these things contain.
Vegan diets tend to be the most deficient in some of the most important micronutrients available to us. And we are completely mismatched for the vegan diet. Interesting post I made this morning, real quick, but you can tell by the eyes of a species whether it was a predator or prey. And what speaks to being an omnivore as humans. Animals and species that didn't live on the ground, they didn't slither on their bellies, they stood up somehow on legs. Animals that didn't live on the ground, that have round pupils and eyes set close together, were predators. And animals that had horizontal pupils and eyes set far apart were prey. And that's from 4.6 million years of evolution. So we were designed to eat meat and animal protein. You may not choose to because of religious reasons or something like that, spiritual reasons, but the vegan diet is completely inappropriate for human beings, and it will leave you with illnesses. I'm sorry. You'll be deficient in a lot of different very, very important vitamins and micronutrients. Would you think I'm being too heavy-handed by saying that, Dr. Jeff?
No, I agree. And again, we're not trying to say that if you're a vegan that you're doing anything wrong. I applaud, everyone who makes a choice. What we're trying to say is you got to look at science, which is what this show is about. And those diets are deficient in a lot of vitamins and minerals. So I always recommend you get a nutrition almanac, is what I always look to, because I have those hard copies. But don't just look at fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. Continue down. Look to see how much, vitamin A, vitamin C, Bs are in those foods that you eat. And if you see a consistency where, for instance, B12 is missing from your diet, not maybe, but you will be deficient. So you are going to need to add that in from a supplement realm.
Yes, and that's why it's important to supplement. If you want to adhere to a diet that limits your intake of these very, very important vitamins, then you need to supplement. It's your responsibility. You can continue to eat the way you believe you should eat as long as you are getting supplements somewhere. Let's do this. Let's take a break. Let's come back and talk about people who are getting enough B12 in their diet but still seem to be deficient. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
All right, stay tuned. You're listening to Science for Humans with Dr. Jeff Galini. We'll be right back. Do you know how to properly use carbohydrates to ignite your performance in the field and in the gym? You will now, thanks to this free book by EFX Sports. The Carb User's Guide for Maximum Performance reveals why omitting carbohydrates from your diet can totally crush your gains. Ever wonder how many grams you need for your specific sport? Not anymore. We give you the critical number you need to dominate your competition. You'll even discover the super carb that's taking the athletic world by storm. You must try it to believe it. Go to getcarbolyn.com/carb guide today and get your copy absolutely free. Once again, it's GETKARBOLYN.com/CARBGUIDE.
This is the Superhuman Channel. Evolution just got kicked up a notch.
Welcome back to Science for Humans. with my co-host, Dr. Jeff Galini. We're talking about vitamin B12. It's a very, very important vitamin. We talked about the types of diets that may be deficient. We talked about the foods that it's present in. But some people are eating the foods, maybe even supplementing from time to time. They still seem to be deficient. Let's talk about that, Dr. Jeff.
Yeah, and there are several things that cause deficiency, even though you are eating. One is heavy drinking of alcohol.
Bingo.
This one is a very interesting one, is long-term use of anti-acid, acid-reducing drugs.
Yes.
You got to remember that, the stomach acid is important. I mean, it helps to break down the proteins that contain that B12. So you might be supplementing and eating enough, but if you are a long-time user of those type of things, you will be deficient.
In fact, the stomach must be on the acidic side. The number needs to be lower when it's acidic. I always get that backwards. But
Yes.
It needs to be in the lower pH side in order for B12 to be absorbed. If you take vitamin B12 and drink it down with something that has a blunting effect on stomach acid, it's not going to be absorbed as well.
No, and I think people get confused, when we talk about alkalizing our system, thinking that, you have to alkalize your stomach, 24/7. And that's a misconception. It has nothing to do with the stomach. That acid is important because that's how you break down nutrients that can be absorbed. If not, they're going to go out. The other thing that we kind of led into, it all has to do with absorption. So things like any condition, we've been talking about gluten, things that lead to Crohn's disease, celiac disease, bacterial growth, parasites, anything that affects the absorption is what is going to cause you to be B12 deficient.
And this is important. I want to belabor this just for a second.
Yes.
Everybody is taking the little purple pill. Everybody's going, my food doesn't like me, so I got to take this pill so I can eat this stuff. There are people going around with distended stomachs. There are people on major TV shows investigating, do you get bloated after a small meal? Are you bloated when you... The stomach problems are rampant in America today. I don't know about abroad, but in the United States, I would easily estimate that probably 30 to 50% of the population have digestive issues that range anywhere from things like thinning of the stomach lining to loss of appropriate microbes in the stomach. Remember, it takes the bacteria to help make the B12 ready for the body. It has to be converted a couple different times. So those of you out there who find yourselves taking Nexium and pills like that, just assume you're B12 deficient because you're not absorbing it properly.
Well, and not only B12, but if you can't absorb that, you're not absorbing any of your nutrients.
Yes.
I know a lot of guys that, claim to be slow growers, and you find that they are on these acid reduction pills. I mean, They can't absorb protein, carbs, fats. And then, of course, over a long time, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong, but wouldn't it be better to just not eat that food?
Yes.
I mean, and we're not talking about taking an occasional Tums, which is nothing more than calcium carbonate. We're talking about the actual prescription drugs or the over-the-counter drugs. But as you continue to tear up that stomach, and I was one, I thought it was gluten, but I found out it was really more of a digestive issue where my stomach was like I was pregnant every morning.
Yes.
And by cutting out that gluten and adding some good bacteria, I'm finding that I'm able to grow better in the gym, and I haven't changed my diet at all. But my proteins, my vitamins, things are being absorbed. I mean, I'm feeling better, Carl, every single day, getting that digestive tract back in line.
Yeah, and a lot of people suffer from this, and B12 is just one of the things. The other thing is aging. When you hit 50 and older, you don't digest foods as well. So pick up a good digestive enzyme and take it with each meal. Don't feel bad about it. You'll absorb more of your nutrients and you'll absorb more of the B12 from the food you're eating.
Absolutely. And again, buy any of these things from a quality, reputable, health food store. just because it's at the dollar store.
Yeah.
And it's $1. Matter of fact, my marketing gal the other day said, here, I bought a couple things from the dollar store. I wanted you to test them. It was like a vitamin C, vitamin E. And I said, you know what? I'm not even going to waste my time.
Yeah.
You know, if it's $1, it tells you what it's about.
If you're buying vitamins at a dollar store, then you don't even need to buy vitamins, because that just goes to show what your real intention is about their usefulness.
Yep. So talking about supplementing with B12, you know, again, I'm a firm believer that you got to be careful with just taking a whole bunch of B12 and nothing else, because you elevate one thing, you could be deficient in another thing. I always kind of call it the shotgun theory, which doesn't sound very good, but I don't know a better way of describing it. But I like to make sure that I get all of the vitamins together in a multi, because more than likely on any given day of the week, I'm going to be deficient in something, and I don't have time, and neither do you, to be testing your blood, 4 times a day to find out today what I'm deficient, because by the time you test it, the day's over and you probably have filled that deficiency. So I like taking a good multivitamin.
I know the best vitamin B supplement in the world.
You do? What is it, Carl?
It's called VitaDrive.
Yes. And I'm passionate about it, and that's why I'm going to throw this offer out. I'm not going to beg you to buy it. I want you to use it. And even if you don't use VitaDrive, I want you to use a high quality multivitamin that you buy from a reputable health store. But I'm passionate about the one that I make. It's been the exact same formula for close to 30 years. So it kind of tells you that a whole lot of basics haven't changed.
Right.
Hey, we're going to make a couple changes because there's some new things, new technologies is coming into place. But I want you to get on a B vitamin. So, Carl, I got 48 bottles here again. That if you really haven't used anything, and you haven't gotten one of the other offers, I'd like to give you a bottle because I want you to see how much better you're going to feel taking a multivitamin. Whether you use VitaDrive or something else, I'm going to give it to you for free so that you understand the importance of this.
So how do people get it? They go to superhumanradio.com, and down on the bottom right-hand side of the home page, you'll see the banner ad with Dr. Jeff's picture on it. It says, Ask the Scientist. Click that banner ad and ask Dr. Jeff for a free bottle of VitaDrive. And please, people are getting better about this, but we still get the occasional person who says, hey, send me that. And you forget to put your mailing address in. So please put your mailing address in so somebody doesn't have to email you back and ask for it. First 48 people get a free bottle of VitaDrive. I take VitaDrive twice a day because B vitamins are water soluble. So I figure, let me take them twice a day so there's high levels of them throughout the day for me. I love VitaDrive. And when you see the bottle and you see the capsules, you will be looking at, and you will undeniably agree with me, a high quality manufactured supplement, not something that somebody has a capping machine and they're throwing powder in it and they're putting it in bottles and putting a fancy label on it. You can feel and see the quality of the products made by All American Pharmaceuticals before you even use them. And when you use them, you realize this really has what it says it has and doesn't have anything else in it but what it says it has.
You'll feel better the very next day. Now, if you're listening to this on the podcast, don't think, well, they probably got rid of the first 48 bottles in 2 minutes. Most people think that. Go ahead and take the time to send an email. I always will let you know that if you're within that realm, and if we happen to use them up and you still email me, I'll send you some free gift of something that I have, some samples, just to try. Again, more or less of saying thank you for listening to the shows. And keep those questions coming. I really appreciate them, and hopefully I'm answering all your questions. But that's what this is about sharing the knowledge that we've learned over the years and asking your questions. It's completely free. So don't feel obligated or feel embarrassed. There is no such thing as a bad question unless you don't ask it.
There you go. Thanks for rocking Superhuman Radio today, Dr. Jeff.
Thank you so much. We'll see you later.
See you later.